Does he have Ball as his last name? I'd love to
Ball
be
is his
called
last
G-Ball.
name.
Oh, that'd be the dream.
Bit of a cap, you know,
Bit
like
of a
wiser
fib.
as it was burning down.
Oh, that sounds kind of fun as a ghost, but that'd be creepy
yeah.
to see. Ghost was like, I am real bitch.
Yeah.
Don't.
Okay, so
Like-
mine is on the Borley Rectory.
Ooh, I've never heard of this.
So this is like another like contender for potentially like the most haunted place in England type deal.
Oh.
But it's burnt down now, so it doesn't exist anymore.
I was gonna say,
but it's...
damn it, we could go view, but apparently not.
All right, so this place was one of those places where where that it would be like next to a church, and then the priest would live there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the kind of deal this place was. It was a little. I say little. It was a 23-bedroom house.
Whoa.
That they even like built more onto, and it was built in 1862. Now this like place had like a large amount of like poltergeist activity, ghost activity, and not just from like residents, but like tourists and like newspaper reporters who like all experienced weird shit in this place.
Okay.
So it was said to have been built on the grounds of an old Cistercian monastery that was on the land 500 years prior. And while people were in this house, they heard like phantom footsteps, disembodied cries of like a lady being heard like on the ground, like ghostly, and like a ghostly apparition of a nun was seen. But they're like, but I'm sort of thinking, but it's a Cistercian monastery, that's for monks. Why are there no monk ghosts? Well, apparently, okay.
Good point.
Listen to this. There's two stories about nuns on this property. One of them is that a monk and a nun fell in love. And they were going to go and elope, but obviously like back in the 1400s you can't just leave the monastery and elope because it's not allowed, like you've married God, like so they found them a few hours after they had escaped, and they bricked up the nun in the monastery and left her to die. In that way. And they apparently like executed the monk, which is kind of sad.
It's so sad. They were just in love.
Yeah, but I think she got the raw end of the deal there.
Yeah,
so,
true.
The second nun story on this in this place that might explain the nun is this man called Henry Waldegrave owned the manor that stood on the same plot of land as this place before Borley Rectory was a thing, and he married a French nun called Marie Lair. And one evening, in a fit of rage, it said that Henry strangled her and buried her in the cellar that was used for the foundations of Borley Rectory. The first residence of Borley Rectory was Henry Dawson Ellis Ball. Quite a mouthful of a name. Good for him.
Also, does he have Ball as his last name? I'd love to
Ball
be
is his last name.
Oh, that'd be the dream. Sorry, carry on.
Why would that be the dream?
Because balls are my thing. That sounds weird, but I mean, like, it's
your thing?
Yeah. We'll talk about it a different day. No, now I'm making it sound more weird than it is. Balls is just really in my vocabulary, so whenever I get angry, I always say balls. Okay, that's where the story is. Okay.
Okay, Mr. Ball moved in with his wife, and they raised, get this, 14 children.
Jeez! They went off.
So they had to build a fucking new wing on this place in 1871, and Ball and his family, they had like strange occurrences from day one. Ball himself was so intrigued by this that he actually had a summer house built that overlooked the area where the nun was most seen, because she used to like walk on the grounds, and they'd be like, oh, there's the nun, and they'd call it the nun's walk. And he would spend like most of the evenings there, like, you know, after dinner, like with his cigar, like hanging out, just watching this nun move, you know, as you do. And like staff and guests of the rectory were often like also found like in either shock or like abject fear, fearing for their lives after seeing like faceless figures staring at them through windows of the main house. So Harry had 4 daughters, and they also caught sight of the nun in like the 1900s near the main house, and they attempted to talk to her, but when they walked up to her, she just completely vanished. They were like, oh, she's not a real nun.
Yeah.
So the Balls like stayed there until like Harry Ball's death, the son of Henry, who died in 1929, and then the lease was passed on to Eric Smith, a new reverend, and his wife. They also saw like ghosts, and stuff was really weird, and they also like they knew about the tales as well. So one morning, Smith's wife apparently allegedly. Because this was like really glossed over, and I'm like, how can you gloss over this in my research? But allegedly, while she was cleaning cupboards, she found a skull of a human woman in this cupboard.
Ugh.
And then like nothing else is really spoken about like that. Like nothing, no one ever talks about that again. So I was like,
Yeah.
is that true? Is that just a bit of a lie? I don't know.
Okay.
I think it may be a bit of a cap, you know.
Bit
Like
of a
why is there a
fib.
skull over there? Yeah.
Yeah.
So they called up like the Daily Mail and the Daily Mirror, and they also sent a man named Harry Price. Now Harry Price
Thank you,
becomes a
Norton.
big
Thank you.
fucking
Thank you.
like
Hello, everyone.
big man in this history of this house.
Mhm.
And he came, and he was already like a paranormal like expert, but he was like trying to like build his repertoire, you know. But as soon as he entered, his like presence started this whole like aggressive and like intense pattern of like really
Oh.
bad poltergeist activity.
Yeah.
So like stones, vases, other household stuff would be thrown at him and
Jeez.
other people during investigations. Like all of these activities basically ceased as soon as Price or Mrs. Smith left.
Okay.
So like as soon as like they weren't in the vicinity, like all of this like crazy like shit's been thrown at them. This
It,
kind
like,
of stuff
settled down.
stopped happening.
Okay, yeah.
There was only like, you know, the footsteps and like the small stuff.
Mhm.
And it all just like settled down. So this is where it gets a bit sus. It's a bit
Okay.
sus.
Okay.
So the Smiths move out, and this new family moves in, right?
Mhm.
This new family are called the Foisters. So this is Harry and the Foister family, like you know, in front of Borley Rectory, and the activity escalated even more when this stuff like when the Foisters moved in, to the extent where it was like bells, windows just randomly shattered, like more stones were thrown at them, like more stuff, and they also experienced like ghost writing on the walls. Like there were like illegible messages that no one could read. Like, there was only two, but I'll get to that in a sec. There's a lot of like stuff that you're like, oh, this could be credible, and then it like it kind of gets bad.
Okay.
So the writings on the wall, the two which they would be able to decipher were "Please for help and prayers" and "Marianne, please get help." Those were the two messages. Yeah, that were on the wall, and like again, like with Harry Price and Marianne, like the stuff like kicked up when Harry or Marianne was in the room. So like it's a bit stuff. So the Foisters had Borley Rectory exercised twice by the Reverend Foister at the time. He exercised the house or whatever, and the stuff ceased for a while, just for like a short time, and then Marianne said that her daughter was attacked by something horrible, and they heard music coming from the nearby church when it was empty, and at a service, the communion wine turned into ink, and no one has an explanation for it.
Ew.
Yeah. So the family eventually moved out. And no other church official wanted to move in after this. They were like, I don't want to move in here.
Don't blame
like,
them, jeez.
It's clearly fucking cursed. Like, fuck that. No, fuck this. So in 1937, Price was like, okay, well, this place is empty. I'm gonna lease this place for 12 months. So I'm gonna bring in 48 other researchers to come and research this home to see if it's legit. And they compiled and like a huge like compendium of like just different like eyewitness testimonies and shit over this time, some of which are like cold and hot spots, coats without a body seen gliding through the house, noises were heard, objects were thrown, like the same old spiel. Then this girl Helen Glanville, daughter of one of Price's like staff members, conducted a seance. And the seance, she said that she contacted two people in this seance. One was the spirit of Marie Lier, the French nun, who apparently was strangled to death, and her remains were buried in the foundations. And the nun said that she was the one writing the notes on the wall to Marianne. And the second spirit was a person called Sunex Amurez. I don't know who the fuck this person is. There's basically nothing on him or them. I don't even know. And they apparently threatened to set fire to the rectory, and that the bones of a murdered person will be found in the ruins. Now, this is a big thing for later on. So this is a ghost that says, I'm gonna burn this place down. Oh, and by the way, there's remains in here. When Price's tenancy ended after a year, it was taken over by a man called Captain Gregson. His name is literally Captain Gregson. And Captain Gregson was like, all right, well, I'm seeing a cash cow here. I'm gonna, give tours and make money off of the rectory because it's got this huge, just massive, like, cult following at this point where people think this place is haunted. And he said he was like plagued by paranormal happenings. His 2 dogs apparently went missing. I think that's just sus on him, to be honest with you.
True.
If your dogs go
Control
missing,
your
but
dogs.
yeah, there you go. And he was only there for, I think, like less than a year or a little over a year, when an oil lamp fell over on its own accord and burned a lot of the rectory down to the point where it was unrepairable. And the insurance company said the fire was started deliberately, but Captain Gregson was like, no, I didn't do this. This was not me.
Yeah.
And witnesses said that while Borley Rectory was burning down, they could see like ghosts like dancing in the flames as it was burning down.
Oh, that sounds kind of fun as a ghost, but that'd be creepy to see.
And they saw a nun in the window while it was burning down, apparently, according to them.
Yeah.
So Price dies in 1948, and as soon as Price dies, a guy named Charles Sutton, a reporter also like from the Daily Mail, I guess they're like rival mail company, paper companies, said that that Price faked most of the activity to further his career. He claimed that while visiting the rectory with Price in 1929, he was hit on the head with a large stone, and he grabbed Price and like shook him down and saw that Price had similar stones in his coat pocket. So he was the one that threw the stone at him, according to Sutton. Note how the activities, like, they decrease and they increase around Marianne Foister when she lived there. Marianne Foister later in life admitted that she saw no apparitions and that the noises were just the wind or herself playing jokes on her husband. And she also admitted that she had an affair with a lodger in the home at the time.
Damn!
And
she used
and she used it as an excuse, like, oh, I'm gonna go investigate the ghosts. She used it as an excuse to, like, basically go and have sex with this lodger, like, away from her husband.
Oh my
so people
God,
are like, oh,
Jesus
it's all unraveling.
Christ.
Yeah, but before he dies in 1938, Price returns. He returns to, like, look, it's all like burnt down. I know, Getty Images, whatever. It's all burnt down now. Price, like, he's like, I'm gonna answer the question once and for all: is this place haunted? Is this place haunted? So he goes back. He looks around in this wreckage. In 1943, he says he finds like remains, or like a jawbone of what he says is a woman. He says he found these jawbones, and he was like, I'm going to give it a Christian burial to, like, put a stop to these hauntings. But Borley refused to allow the ceremony, like the actual church next to it was like, we're not doing this. This looks like, they said it was pig bones. Instead of the remains of a woman. But another church called Liston was like, okay, you can bury the remains here and do this. But in 1938, it was confirmed that no nuns, like this, all these nun stories were either made up by the kids of the manor, that they had like taken stories from like I think like the Princess Montezuma, like this one poem or something, and they had said that this nun had died here just to like spook, like a little, how kids do, they make up little stories. Like it was proven that no nuns had died. Like there was no actual historical basis for any nuns dying in this premises. But a lot of people, so Ed and Lorraine Warren were involved in this case. Like they actually went. And here's a little clip of that I'll play of them being like, oh, we think it's real. Let me play this for you.
Ed and Lorraine.
Ed and Lorraine have been there over 24 times. Every single time they've been there, they've been witness to phenomena. It is, in fact, the most haunted location in all of Great Britain. What I'd like to do now is start with Ed and Lorraine and ask about your first experience at Borley.
The first experience for me was phenomenal. It was really phenomenal. It's about the only place, Tony, other than going into a home where poltergeist activity is prominent, that everything happens as soon as you get involved. As soon as you walk in, as soon as you get involved in going into this church and beginning your research, something is bound to happen. Now that first day, I had a very skeptical researcher with me. He was a newspaper man from Danbury, and he was obnoxiously skeptical.
What, my friend
but
Jack?
He was keeping a full diary for me. So he was very, very helpful. I worried about what his effect was going to have on this building. So I was in and I was discerning. I was standing down by the altar. I was with a group of people and I was discerning. When all of a sudden he came charging in through the back door and he said, "Something is hitting me. It's hitting me. It's hitting me." And he was absolutely hysterical.
The ghost was like, "I am real
Hysterical.
big."
Now,
Yeah.
at that
Doink.
point, he said, "I can't breathe. I can't breathe." The
Now, Lorraine,
record-
was this researcher psychic by any chance?
No,
He
by
wasn't
no
psychic.
means. Oh, by
Yeah,
no.
he had never been in
He
a
was
haunted.
He had
skeptical. Why
never
would he be
been to a
psychic?
haunted
Yeah.
area, Tony.
Okay.
Exactly.
And the recorders are on because people are recording what I'm discerning.
Mm-hmm.
Now later at our hotel in London, he came down to my room and said, "Mrs. Warren, it's going to be impossible for me to write anything about that church that we were in." I said, "Borley?" He said, "Yes." He said, "The tape that you gave me where you were discerning," he said, "you can hear when I come in the room and I'd like to play it for you." Now when he, or into the church. Now when he walked
So yeah,
in,
like it's
and he was yelling
it's very
like,
much like people. A lot of people are like, yeah, it's haunted. Although there were opportunists who are like, I want to make money off of like Borley Rectory itself. I want to make a lot of money. You know, I want to make my name from it. A lot of people were like, okay, even though that happened, a lot of people were like, we still think that this is like real. Like a lot of people that live around the area, like, okay, we still think it's real. We still think it's still think it's a thing. But like even Ed and Lorraine Warren, they think it's real. They just think
Yeah.
that there are just some people out there that will, try and capitalize off of this to try and make money or like further themselves. And that's just it. It makes it seem like it's a hoax.
Yeah.
But who knows? What
Well,
do you
the
think, chat? Do you think it's fake or real? Do you
The
think it's
thing
fake or real?
that I have, so Ed and Lorraine go back to the stories I told, and do you remember when there was someone came out to say that they paid people off or
Yeah.
something to tell these stories? But it is such a hard one because it's like, how many people can keep up with fake stories? Like how many people would, like, they must be paying $1 to pay people off like this. But the other thing is, if they're recording everything, where's all these recordings? Can we find access to them?
I don't know, like, because this is the thing, like, there's so much information on this place. Like, I know that I taught for a long time because it's just so much. Like, it's like, because everyone thought it was the most haunted place in England, like, now apparently the Lamb Inn is the most haunted place in England because this has been burnt down. Like, people were like, like, we need to document this. Like, there are so many documentaries and it's so much information. It's like, but we've watched Ed and Lorraine be like, okay, well, most of the time there's a rational explanation for this. Like, there's a rational explanation. So, like, it makes me think either maybe you can think, oh, maybe Ed and Lorraine are both just hacks and they're just, trying to make money or whatever. Or, like, maybe this place was haunted, but just not to the extent that all these, like, people who wanted to make money off of it, was saying it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, what do you think? Do you think it's a real? Do you think it's a hoax?
Chat, question mark? What are you saying?
Oh.
Real or fake? Let yourself be known. Dom thinks it's real.
My chat says it's fake. Most of my
Oh, most of my chat's saying real.
Damn.